Welcome to the Just Get to Work podcast. I am Deb Colitas, and I am so glad you're here today. Just Get to Work is exactly what it says. We clear the noise, we clear the distractions, and we hustle down and we just get to work. My topics are usually surrounding about AI search and what we can do as marketing, communication professionals, business owners. What do we need to be keeping track of so that, well, we can have authentic relationships, use this technology, and make sure our business is showing up. As always, let's start with the terminology. What is fitment data? It is the structured information that tells you whether a specific replacement part physically or mechanically works with a specific piece of equipment. In the appliance or equipment repair world, this usually comes down to a chain of identifiers on a website, kind of like a decision tree. So first it would be the brand, and then the next drop down would be the model number, sometimes a year or a serial number or a production date. So let's stick with our broken dishwasher for the moment. The drain pump isn't just a drain pump, it's the drain pump for a Whirlpool XYZ 3000 built after a certain production date. And it might be a completely different pump for the same model built 2 years earlier because the manufacturer swapped it out for a redesigned or the mid-part run. Same model, same brand, different internal part, different fitment. That relationship, part to model compatibility, is fitment data. Instead, each manufacturer maintains its own internal cross-referencing catalog, mapping model numbers, serial ranges, and sometimes diagrams to the exact part numbers that fit. If you think about the last time you went online and maybe were shopping for clothes on Land's End or Kohl's, you then have a drop-down menu, right? It's how they took a physical catalog and turned it into a working digital decision tree. The underlying idea of narrowing down a huge catalog to what actually works for a specific thing shows up across almost every retail category in existence, just wearing a different label. Almost identical to what we just described. So why did fitment become the gold standard for human search? Think about the alternative. Imagine a parts site with no model lookup, just a search bar and a giant catalog. You type drain pump, you get 4,000 results across 400 appliance models. You have no idea which one goes in your dishwasher. You either already know the exact manufacturer part number, which almost nobody does, or you start guessing based on a picture and hoping it looks right. Growing up, my grandfather owned a marine supply business, and my favorite thing was hanging out with my Uncle Norman. My Uncle Norm was like the human AI. They'd mention their boat type, they'd mention the issue, they'd mention the symptom, they'd mention what they needed, and he immediately, bam, would know. We'd go through the adventure of walking through the warehouse, we'd pull it, and we'd see that happy customer. That is what has been modeled within fitment data. If you didn't have the Uncle Norman at the counter, it was an awful service experience. It was a catalog this thick with just pictures and model numbers. So a terrible experience for something where, you get it wrong. It has real consequences. Fitment flips that completely on its head. It front loads the one piece of information, your model number, your year, the make, that instantly collapses the entire decision space. Once the system knows that you have that exact Whirlpool model year, it doesn't matter if the catalog has 2 million SKUs. Your world just became a labeled diagram with maybe 60 parts on it. That's an enormous cognitive load reduction delivered in about 2 clicks. And there's a trust dimension too. When a site shows you an exploded diagram of your actual appliance with the broken part cycled and in green, fits your model badge, that's not just convenience, it's a confidence signal. That's why model-driven part sites have historically converted so much better than generic catalogs. So fitment worked because it mirrored how humans think about the problem. We don't think in manufacturer part numbers. We think, I have this exact machine, what's going on? Fitment data is built around that mental model. Everything that makes fitment great for human clicking through a model lookup is exactly the thing that makes it invisible to an AI search. Think about how an AI answer engine, an overview, a shopping agent actually gets its information. It doesn't click. It doesn't type a model number into a search box. It doesn't wait for an exploded diagram to load and then click a specific part. It crawls static, readable content, or it calls an API, or it reads a structured data feed. It needs the answer to already exist as text or data somewhere it can reach without interacting with a user interface. And that's the exact bottleneck. A huge amount of fitment data, the actual compatibility logic, lives behind a model number search box and an interactive diagram tool. The real information, yes, this pump fits that exact Whirlpool model. only materializes after a user interaction that the crawler can't perform. To an AI crawler, that whole rich, carefully engineered compatibility database might as well not exist. So what happens when someone asks an AI, does this drain pump fit my Whirlpool ABC XYZ? A few things can happen, and none of them are great for the retailer. First, AI might just not know and say so honestly, which means the retailer loses the moment entirely. The person goes back to Google or the site directly. Second, and this is the scarier one, the AI might guess, pulling from a forum post, a Reddit thread, an old cached page, or a pattern matching from similar models and get it wrong. And then third, the AI might actually surface a competitor who happened to expose their fitment data in a crawlable way, even if their catalog is smaller or their price is higher, simply because their information was legible to the machine and the other guy's wasn't. So what works and what doesn't in this new environment? What doesn't work is fitment logic that only exists inside a search box plus diagram tool with no static fallback. Compatibility data trapped in PDF service manuals or scanned parts bulletin, invisible. Product pages that only reference a manufacturer part number with no description, no natural language model content anywhere in the page's actual text or metadata. So many of these sites right now are built like it was a visual catalog, assuming that through that fitment data, you're able to get to what you need. But how do people actually use chat for seeking a answer to their problem? They're putting in symptoms. That's how we've been living. With our broken laundry machine, oh my goodness, I abandoned Google right away. I went to ChatGPT. I typed in the make, the model number. Fitment has trained me in that way. And then it was giving me amazing resources about, do you want to fix this yourself? Do you want to call a repair person? Here are your options. So it's much more dynamic, and it was much more friendly for me because I'm not a washer repair person. So when product pages that only reference a manufacturer part number with no description, they're missing that opportunity to show up in the natural conversation of AI search. What does work even in early form? Right now, static, individually indexable landing pages for model and part combination, so there's an actual crawlable URL and a page of text reading. These are the drain pumps to fit a Whirlpool XYZ123. Schema.org structured markup that explicitly encodes product to model compatibility and machine readable tags, not just a visual diagram. FAQ style content that answers the fitment questions in plain language are hugely valuable because that's literally the format AI systems are best at extracting and repeating. And this one's newer, a direct API or feed relationship with AI shopping and search platforms so that the fitment answer comes from the source of truth instead of an AI's best guess is highly valuable. The uncomfortable moment here is that the very thing that made fitment such a strong human UX pattern, hiding complexity behind an interactive model lookup, is now a liability in a world where the primary user reading your page might not be a person at all, but a language model reading static text. You got to keep the humans happy. So if you're running one of these businesses, a parts retailer, equipment manufacturer, anyone whose catalog depends on compatibility logic, what should actually be on your roadmap right now? First, start treating AI crawlers and AI shopping agents as a distinct user type, separate from human shoppers with their own access requirements. Your UX team optimizes for human typing model numbers. Somebody needs to be explicitly optimizing for machines that can't click through a diagram. Second, I need you to audit how much of your actual fitment data is visible in raw page source versus only rendered after a search interaction. If a crawler fetching your page with interaction disabled sees nothing useful, that's your gap, full stop. You got to redo it. Third, and this is the genuine opportunity, it's not just a threat. Companies already sitting on clean, well-organized, modeled-apart cross-reference data have a massive head start. That data just needs a second output format, one built for the open web and for AI consumption, rather than purely for just the retailer's own internal search tool. The hard part, building the accurate compatibility database, is already done for a lot of these companies. The remaining work is exposure, not creation. Fourth, start thinking about this as a new discipline. In your company, you have your SEO experts, you have your social media experts. Where are your fitment data experts as it translates into AI search? Fifth, and this one is a genuine liability issue. If an AI system is going to answer fitment questions about your products, whether you help it or not, you want to be the source it's pulling accurate information from, not a 5-year-old repair forum thread, a wrong compatibility answer that gets attached to your brand name, even if you never said it, still becomes your customer service problem, your return, your 1-star review. Avoid that. And sixth, start monitoring your presence in AI answers the way you'd monitor search rankings. There are already tools emerging on track to help you with that, but as I've talked about in my previous podcast, start with yourself. What questions are people asking? How do you then ask it, and how do the answers turn up? Because if you don't know how you're currently being represented or misrepresented, you can't fix it. Fitment data spent 20 plus years becoming the gold standard for helping humans get the right part fast. The next chapter isn't about replacing that. It's about translating it so that the machine reading the web on our behalf can be just as confident and just as correct as the person who used that type in their model number for themselves. But for now, if you need some help with your fitment data or any of your shopping or source data whatsoever, please reach out to Focus Point Communications and myself. I gotta go get some work done, so you go just get to work.